Let's now focus on managing the stakeholder expectation in hybrid environments. So, we already have seen how to manage the scope in hybrid environments. Now, let's talk about managing the stakeholder expectations. So, in hybrid project environments, the stakeholder expectations can be sometimes challenging to manage because different groups may have different preferences, different priorities. Maybe the executives and regulators may expect a strict scope control and detailed planning, while agile teams and product owners demand the flexibility and iterative progress. And balancing these expectations requires a clear communication, continuous stakeholder engagement strategies, and adaptive governance frameworks. Hybrid approaches allows the project managers to combine the predictive elements where it has the structured planning processes with agile flexibility to ensure continuous feedback loops to meet the diverse team or the diverse stakeholder needs. And to start with identifying the key stakeholders in hybrid projects. So, stakeholders in hybrid projects include mixed of agile and predictive teams, required which requires a tailored engagement strategy based on the stakeholder type. A stakeholder register here and power interest matrix can help you to identify and prioritize these stakeholders. Remember that you know high influence stakeholders might require a proactive communication, while low influence stakeholders may need periodic updates. With these tools like the stakeholder register and the power interest grid or matrix, you help or you say it will help you to map these stakeholder, and you classify based on their influence and interest. Based on that, you can tailor your communication and your engagement based on these interests. But what are the challenges when managing stakeholder expectation in hybrid projects that you might face? So, stakeholder challenges in hybrid project arise when some groups might expect a rigid control while others want the adaptability. So it's like conflicting expectation between agile and predictive stakeholders. Also, one of these challenges that you might face is the resistance to agile adoption from the senior executives or external stakeholders, which can sometimes slow the decision making. Where you, as a project manager, you need to have proper training to show the benefit of following the agile, implementation with its benefit and with its frameworks, how it can benefit the stakeholders and the project overall. And by addressing these two concerns through hybrid governance models, continuous engagement, and clear expectation management is crucial to ensure the alignment between these stakeholders. So, by following all of these continuous engagement and hybrid governance models, you ensure that you align all of these expectation between all of these different stakeholders. Now let's look at some of these strategies to engage the predictive stakeholders. So, predictive stakeholders such as the executives, sponsors, and regulators prefer maybe a structured documentation, also having a clear deadlines and risk control mechanisms. By providing a detailed project plans, milestone tracking, and performance reports, you reassure them that the project is on track despite of the agile iteration and agile implementation within your project. Remember that when we use the earned value management on the waterfall, predictive life cycle, also the milestones and the risk assessment, where you identify the risk and you keep updating the stakeholders about all of these risks with their mitigation strategies to assure them that you are running their projects as per the plan. By maintaining a formal communication channels like the status report and stakeholder meetings, you ensure the alignment of these predictive stakeholders within your hybrid projects. On the other hand, now let's see how we can ensure the engagement of these agile stakeholders. So, agile stakeholders such as the product owner, the development teams, and the end users expect maybe a continuous collaboration and iterative updates. Unlike the predictive stakeholders who preferred the let's say the structured planning, milestone updates, and the risk assessment or continuous risk assessment reports. So these agile stakeholders they prefer the flexible planning and rapid prototyping and minimal documentation. A hybrid model should include a structured but also adaptable engagement practices to ensure the alignment between these two different stakeholders. You may also use to handle these agile stakeholders by having a daily stand up meeting, backlog grooming sessions, and sprint reviews to keep these stakeholders or agile stakeholder engaged. Hybrid projects requires a customized communication plans to align with both agile and predictive expectations. Traditional teams requires the detailed reports, risk logs, risk assessment, milestone tracking, while maybe agile teams rely on Kanban boards, burn down charts when dealing with Scrum ceremonies and a Scrum framework. Also, the sprint updates to keep all of these different stakeholders aligned with the expectation that they're looking into the project. How we can manage the expectation through hybrid governance. So, hybrid governance frameworks provide rules for balancing the flexibility with the control. PMI's disciplined agile or the DA approach, it helps organization to integrate agile with predictive oversight. A hybrid project charter should maybe define, let's say, which process follows the predictive controls, maybe the fixed or the fixed components of your scope, including the compliance or the risk management strategies. Also, when it comes to define the workflows which remain agile, like maybe the features development, the iteration, all of these user stories, benefit of both of these approaches. So having let's say a structured governance framework by defining which processes must follow the predictive control and which processes should follow the agile approach, here where you can ensures the alignment between all of these different stakeholders and the project needs. And to achieve that, as I mentioned, that you can use the project charter to define these governance roles to ensure the alignment between the flexibility and control within your project. You might also face some of these conflicts between your hybrid teams. So now let's look at some of these conflict resolution in hybrid and stakeholder management. So conflicts between agile and predictive teams and stakeholders sometimes arise due to the misaligned priorities. By holding a regular stakeholder alignment meetings, you can overcome these challenges. Also, using a data-driven decision making and applying compromising techniques and prioritization technique, where you agree with the stakeholder which requirements should be implemented, which feature must be implemented. Maybe you are dealing with regulatory requirements, so you can strict your plans to implement these regulatory frameworks. With having all of these techniques and applying these compromising techniques, you help resolving these conflicts. The hybrid teams should establish a shared governance model to prevent the miscommunication and conflicting goals and priorities. So you might use the stakeholder alignment workshop to resolve these agile and predictive conflicts. You need to understand each of these stakeholder needs, as we mentioned, applying these conflict resolution technique like collaboration, negotiation, compromising, and these conflict resolution techniques we already have covered them during the waterfall when managing your team as part of the planning and execution phases. And by following these conflict resolution techniques and Having regular meetings, alignment meetings between these two different stakeholders, you will help to maintain the transparency through a shared vision, a shared vision and shared decision making frameworks. And to measure the stakeholder satisfaction, which is very important during your project implementation and in hybrid projects, stakeholder satisfaction also is critical for the project success. By having a regular surveys and participation tracking and engagement reviews, you help assess the stakeholder alignment and expectations and satisfaction. Maybe an increase in change requests from predictive teams may signal a poor upfront planning, while a drop in agile team engagement maybe could indicate an having too much over control. By tracking these engagement levels through the participation in meeting and feedback loops and monitor these change request trends, you detect these misalignment early and you ensure that you tailor your communication or your prioritization into the let's say to the stakeholder benefit to ensure their satisfaction. Here are some of the best practices when managing the stakeholder expectation in hybrid projects. So uh, as I mentioned, with having a clear stakeholder engagement strategies, understanding the stakeholder types, whether they are the exhibitors, maybe they are regulators, maybe they are risk control people. So, based on that, you need to tailor these engagement strategies to ensure successful stakeholder expectation management. Also, by having a regular communication through tailored reports and meetings. Finally, you need to remember to balance the predictive control with agile flexibility to ensure meeting these stakeholder needs and expectations and achieve their satisfaction.